I want you to think about the last time you genuinely felt like you were making progress, not just staying afloat, not just surviving the week, actually moving forward. Can you remember it? Because I can remember the last time I felt that, and it wasn't at work. It wasn't in a meeting. It wasn't after hitting a target or closing a deal. It was sitting alone at midnight, watching a pixelated farmer water a row of seeds in a valley I had built from nothing. And for reasons I couldn't explain at the time, that felt more real than anything my actual life was offering me. There was a month at work that I still think about. I did everything I was supposed to do. I showed up. I met the customers. I sat in the rooms, gave the presentations, made the calls. I did not cut corners. I did not give up halfway. And at the end of that month, nothing. Zero. Not a single result to show for any of it. And the part that broke me wasn't the failure. It was that I could not figure out why. There was no error message, no obvious mistake to fix. Just silence. That same week, I came home and opened Stardew Valley. And within 20 minutes, I had watered my crops, collected my eggs, shipped my artisan goods, and watched my gold counter go up by 11,000. I knew exactly what I had done to earn that. I knew exactly what would happen tomorrow if I did the same things again. In 7 days, my blueberries would be ready. Not maybe, not if the market cooperates, not if my manager thinks the timing is right. 7 days. Guaranteed. And if you have ever felt what I felt in that moment, that specific relief of a world that just does what it says it will do, then you already understand everything this video is about. I want to be honest about something. Part of me felt embarrassed about how much that mattered to me. Here I was, a grown adult, genuinely comforted by a cartoon farm, getting more satisfaction from a fictional gold counter than from anything happening in my actual career. I did not talk about it with anyone. It felt like the kind of thing you kept to yourself, like admitting it would confirm something uncomfortable about where things were. But then I started noticing it everywhere once I looked. The friend who stayed up until 2 a.m. finishing a dungeon the night before an important meeting. The colleague who mentioned offhand that they had been playing something new to decompress. The group chat that came alive at midnight when everyone was supposed to be asleep. We were all doing the same thing. We just each thought we were the only one doing it. And I remember sitting there thinking, this isn't just fun. This is filling something. Because the game wasn't lying to me. It wasn't withholding. It wasn't moving the goalposts. It had rules, and the rules made sense, and if you followed them, something actually happened. Real life had stopped feeling like that. Real life had started feeling like a game where the rules change every time you get close to leveling up. And nobody tells you this is happening. There is no announcement, no memo that says the criteria have changed again. You just notice one day that the thing that was supposed to get you to the next level no longer does. The promotion you were told to aim for gets moved. The revenue target you hit gets revised upward immediately. The milestone you reached somehow reveals 3 more behind it. It is not that the game is unfair. It is that the game keeps changing its definition of winning. And when you cannot win, when the rules keep shifting under your feet, your brain starts quietly looking for somewhere it can. I think about how many of us are doing this right now, staying up later than we should, not because we aren't tired, but because the day didn't give us anything that felt like ours. No visible win, no progress bar, no confirmation that what we put in actually mattered. So we stay up and we find it somewhere else. In a valley we built, in a kingdom we're exploring, in a city we're surviving, and the world calls it avoidance. But I think sometimes it's something closer to maintenance. The kind of maintenance that does not show up on any calendar or any performance review. The kind that just quietly keeps you going. But even knowing that, even on the nights where gaming genuinely helped, there was still a voice in the background. The one that sounds reasonable. The one that says you could be doing something more productive, learning a skill, reading something useful, working on the thing you keep saying you will work on. And maybe that voice is right sometimes. I am not going to pretend it never is. But I think that voice has also been given far too much authority over how we spend the small pockets of rest that we actually get. We already give most of our hours to obligations. What we do with the ones that belong to us, that is not a moral question. That is a personal one. But here is the thing I want you to sit with. There is a mechanic in games like Hollow Knight, and if you have played it, you will know exactly what I mean. where you go back to an early area, the first zone, the place where you died 12 times before you figured out how to move properly. And you walk through it now, and the enemies that once destroyed you are barely a threat. You are not wearing new armor. You do not have a better weapon. You just have something you cannot see on any status screen. You got better, quietly, without a notification. And I want you to think about where that happens in your own life. The conversation that used to terrify you, that you now have without thinking. The situation that used to unravel you, that you now move through without missing a step. You got better there too, just as quietly, just as invisibly. Your life is doing this right now. I genuinely believe that. The month where nothing worked, that was a level. The presentation you gave to an empty room, that was a level. The year that felt like you were standing still, that was a level. You were not stuck. You were farming experience in an area the game forgot to put a progress bar on. And one day, and I cannot tell you when, but one day, you will walk back through that corridor, and the thing that once stopped you will not even slow you down. Whatever your version of that corridor is, whatever the thing was that once felt impossible, you are already closer to moving through it easily than you think. I want to tell you something that I wish someone had told me on that night. I sat staring at the ceiling after that empty month. You are further along than you think. I know that sounds like something embroidered on a pillow, but I mean it in a specific way. Think about what the 10-year-old version of you wanted. Not the career, not the title, just the life. To walk into a restaurant and not look at the prices. To get on a plane and go somewhere because you wanted to. To have a home that is yours, even a small one. And I know some of you are thinking, those feel like small things. Things everyone eventually gets. But that is exactly the point. We were told that arriving would feel like something, that we would know when we got there. Instead, life just quietly continued. The arrival became invisible because we were already looking ahead to the next thing. That is not ingratitude. That is what happens when nobody teaches you how to actually receive what you worked for. Maybe for you, it is not a flight or a restaurant. Maybe it is the first time you paid for something without checking your bank balance. Or the Sunday afternoon, where you realized you were not dreading Monday the way you used to. It looks different for everyone, but the feeling underneath it is the same. Something you promised yourself once, quietly crossed off a list you forgot you were keeping. I had one of those moments recently. I was sitting in a ryokan in Japan. My family was there. My fiancé was there, someone I had just proposed to. And I looked around the room and realized that I was the one who had made this happen. The yearly trip I had promised myself I would give my family. I was covering everyone's expenses without checking if I could afford to. And it hit me, not loudly, not with fireworks, just quietly, the way the most important things usually do. This was on the list. The list I made when I was young and had nothing and was trying to imagine what a good life might feel like. I was inside it. I had been inside it for a while. I just hadn't stopped long enough to notice. Did I do everything on the timeline I planned? No. Most of it came later than I wanted. The younger version of me would have had opinions about that, probably anxious ones. But here is what I have come to understand. And I think it applies to most of you too. The younger version of you did not know what circumstances you would face. He did not know what you would have to navigate to get here. And if you could sit across from him now, I do not think he would be disappointed by the timeline. I think he would be relieved by the destination. I think he would be proud. Not because you did it perfectly, but because you did it at all, based on everything that was in the way. So the next time you are up at 2 a.m. and you have opened a game because the day gave you nothing that felt like yours, I want you to consider something. Maybe you are not escaping. Maybe you are just the kind of person who needs to see progress to keep going. And maybe the reason you are still going, through the invisible months, through the empty results, through the years that looked like nothing from the outside, is precisely because you found a way to keep the fuel topped up when the real world forgot to offer any. That is not weakness. That is a survival strategy that actually worked. You are still here, still loading. If this landed somewhere real for you, share it with someone who needs to hear it, not because it will fix anything, but because some nights the most useful thing is knowing that someone else has stared at the same ceiling and found their way back to the morning. I will see you in the next one.